5 years as a head coach, we've ran into one school that doesn't use huddle.
This is where college football gets tricky.
Your highlight, that's your resume. If they don't have a junior highlight, they're not going on the list. And the way you make your highlight tape is a game changer. Literally, you're earning money through a good highlight tape, and that's really important. There's never been a great football player that looks bad on film. What is making you stand out over the other 200 kids that play your position in our area?
Find out, are you an NAI level player? Are you a D2? Are you an FCS? Are you a group of 6? Are you a power 4? Are you a D3? Like, what are you currently playing at? And then maybe that person that evaluates you will tell you what you need to do to get to the next level. You want to find the coach that's responsible for recruiting your area.
Yeah.
You should be reaching out to those schools. Coaches aren't going to know who you are.
Yeah.
You have to do it. These are the things that they're crushing you. And you could have 3 offers, but now you have none because
You're listening to the Football Scholarship Podcast, the playbook for parents and athletes who want to secure the best football scholarships possible. From securing a D1 football scholarship in the SEC at Ole Miss at just $500, £700, myself, to helping 83% of the athletes I mentor achieve football scholarship offers and 42% going Division I. I've learned countless lessons that I'll be sharing right here with you. Join me and my co-host Brian Overton, who has 15 years of D1 college football recruiting experience, as we interview top experts, successful athletes, and discuss current recruiting trends. Together, we'll help you navigate the recruiting process so you too can achieve your dream of running out of that tunnel in front of 100,000 screaming fans.
cool, man. I even want to point out, dude. So you were like the starting quarterback and have quarterback records at Campbellsville not even 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Like in 2016.
Yep.
How have you already been the head coach for 3 years? Like, what are we talking about? This is a pretty intense timeline there.
Yeah, it's interesting because players that I know that get into coaching, or young guys that I've had on my staff, or friends that are in coaching, and they're kind of looking at my path and saying, well, I'm ready to be this or that. And, it's and it kind of sounds bad, but it's like, what happened for me is really rare. Like, obviously, I've had kind of a crazy fast trajectory through the coaching profession, and just been very lucky that there's been some people that believed in me. And even a former player, the first quarterback I ever coached, was the guy that really went to bat for me. He was coaching at a school that had a coaching change, and he said, "Hey, I know a guy that would be perfect for the OC job." And, the head coach that he was telling that to, we didn't know each other. And so, just have had great people, and always kind of joke with people that I'm just a quarterbacks coach that had a chance to be an OC, and then for some reason somebody hired as a head coach. And then I think when I first started coaching, I always told people I never wanted to be a head coach. Like, I liked coaching football. I like the X and O's. I like the day-to-day grind. I actually really love recruiting, which, is great being here on this podcast for that reason. And so a lot of head coach things that I saw as an assistant, I'm like, those things don't interest me. But pretty shortly into being an assistant coach, like, saw kind of how a head coach can shape and form and impact young men, most importantly, and just to build a lot of ideas, started to put things on paper. And then obviously an opportunity came. And even when I applied for the job at Kentucky Christian University, thought, well, this will be great to go through the process and kind of see how this works, so that when the day comes when I have a chance to be a head coach, I'll be a little bit more prepared. Well, then I got hired as the head coach there. And even though I had written down a lot of things and made a lot of plans, that was a great experience to actually learn how to be a head coach. And then after 2 years there, this job came open, and I guess here we are. So yeah, it's been crazy. It's been surreal to be back in the exact same place and walk in the same places, and we still use some of the same facilities and share the stories. And obviously with the players, and to them, it might as well be 30 years ago. So it's definitely surreal to be back at the alma mater, especially kind of, as you said, that quick.
It's awesome, man. I mean, it's a cool story, cool trajectory, especially someone who had a lot of success as a player too. And I think that also shapes a lot of potentially the way you coach, right? Like you're having a pretty good season right now. Sorry about last week, but
Yeah.
you're having a really good season. You're doing really good things, man. So tell me a little bit about how you went about building the program to what it is now. How did you take it from, to build it to where it is?
Right. So Campbellsville is a place, especially in AI level, that has awesome resources. Our facilities are top notch. We're very blessed in a lot of ways there. This is a school that, when the opponents come and the other coaches, you're kind of talking to them before the game, or a couple of times a year, the coaches will get together in the conference. I mean, they're saying like, man, you guys really have nice things and great resources. Like this is a
Yeah.
job that at the NAI level, one that people look at and say that's a great job. And, I'm very blessed to be here, and I live that every day. Like, football is football. Like the field is always going to be 100 yards. And if it's grass, turf, a dome, like that stuff really doesn't matter. But we have great support and everything like that. And so I came into a program that had won 5 games total in the previous 4 years. And when you look at Campbellsville, you say, how is that possible? It's a pretty good
Right.
location. It's a really nice small town. It's the exact center of the state. We're not that far from Nashville. We're really not that far from some really good out of state areas as well. And so the big thing when we got here, we had 60 total guys in the program doing spring ball, and that counted injured guys, that counted a few others.
Was
And
it from the portal or what was the?
yeah, so well, we had 60 total guys. I took over in the spring of 2023, so I actually got here like right when they were supposed to start spring practice. So we had 60 guys when I got here and took over the program, and that number is extremely low. To compare that to last off season, when really we always say a season starts for us in January. From January, through the spring semester, you're getting to do really the main work, speed and agility, weights, the main focus for the first part, and then a full spring practice. And so with only 60 guys, that's really tough to we only had 5 offensive linemen, and one of those was a converted tight end. Receiver room was less than probably having 2 at each position. And so it was hard to even get a practice done. And this past spring, we had 117 guys go through spring practice with us, or spring semester. And so that in itself is one of the big reasons. Obviously, the biggest thing I did when I got here was hire the right people. I have an amazing staff. We've only had one guy leave our staff in 3 years, and he didn't want to. He kind of had a
Crazy.
situation outside of football where he left right before this season. He still watches just as much film as anybody, still communicates to our guys that he was coaching. He's still actually really invested in what we do, but unfortunately just had to leave our coaching staff. So I've had great retention of coaches, and that was something as a first and second year coach learning. It's really all about the assistants. I'm really just the guy telling people, what time to be where and what the practice is going to look like. But those assistant coaches, they're really doing
Yeah.
the work.
Yeah.
And one great
Yeah.
thing about NAI is even as a head coach, I still have I do coach the quarterbacks, and I still do call the offense. So I'm still getting to coach a lot of football as well. But other than that, it was, trying to get as much talent here as possible, right? So it was clear that there was talented guys here, but we had no depth. They were really struggling to keep their talented guys in school here and eligible and retaining them. We were a little bit fortunate that we were able to bring probably 15 or so guys with us from our previous school because it was an out of conference transition. So they didn't have to sit out. So those guys were huge early on because they understood our culture, standard expectations. And when we got here and we were telling, the guys that were here, hey, if you don't go to class, you're going to run. Hey, when we say stand behind the white line while we're doing Skelly, we actually mean it. Like these little small details are going to make a big difference. And so the guys that had already been in our program a year or two were kind of telling these guys like, hey, just buy into what he's telling you. And I think this can really work. And then obviously it's just been recruiting and retention. We have kind of a little phrase that we use in our staff, and it's recruit, refine, retain. So obviously recruiting is the singular most important thing we will do for on-field success. the team with the best players overall will win the high majority of games. When the talent's close, there's obviously a lot of things that matter. Can a team that's a little less talented beat a team that's more talented? Absolutely right. But if you recruit really well, you're going to win a lot of games. And then you talk about refine, that's just actually making the individual players better. That's that January through March where you're doing weights 4 days a week, speed and agility. Obviously, all the practices, the summer. We've had more guys stay in the summer than ever in our school history. And then retain. So our retention has been probably just as good as anybody in all of college football. It's been in the upper 80s, low 90s% of players that have returned from one semester to the next. And, I think we have a great university here. Obviously, we have a great staff. Our guys enjoy being here. We lost 3 guys to Division I scholarships last year, and that was the most we've lost. And we couldn't be more proud of those guys. 2 of them are actually starting at Division I schools, one at Jacksonville State and one at Gardner-Webb. The one at Gardner-Webb had 3 picks last week, and they're both doing great.
Listen, man, it's the recruiting game, like you said, it is really important having the guys on the field, right? And obviously a lot of the families that watch this or listen to this podcast are going through the recruiting process, and they're trying to find good programs like yours. So kind of walk me through, how do you go about finding good recruits? What is your recruiting process?
Yeah, I think ours is very unique, actually, probably to most. I think it's something that we said, let's try this, see if it works. I believe it has, and it is a little unique. So on a given day, myself, or I would say probably most members of our staff are getting probably 24 emails from recruits, probably a dozen or 24. Like this time of year is really crazy because you've got everybody getting in the transfer portal. All the high school kids are getting close to the end of their year. So right now is like the craziest time because you're kind of getting hit from both areas. And obviously we recruit both of those areas, but we try to eliminate what I call random recruiting. So that means random recruiting is I get a random email or a random DM on Twitter from a player that says, "Hey, coach, I'm such and such, whatever, quarterback this class from this state." And that really, you can get overwhelmed if you do that as a coach because, again, if I'm getting 20 or 30 of those minimum a day, I will never catch up. Or I would have to recruit 24/7 and our team wouldn't be very good at football because we wouldn't be coaching any football. So what we do is each coach on our staff has an assigned in-state area. We hit the whole state. We have an assigned out-of-state area, which is within 4 to 5 hour radius of our campus because we feel like, that 4 to 5 hour range is kind of where the families can still get to games. The players can still go home on bye weeks, things like that. And then each coach also has a third area, which is kind of like our defensive line coach is from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So he's got a few connections in the Miami area. He may use those. My third area is kind of more just the transfer portal itself. Our defensive coordinator was coaching in Texas before he got here, so he does Texas. So we've all got assigned areas, and what we do that I think separates us from a lot of programs is if I have these 20 schools in the state of Kentucky, I go to the huddle of every single one of those 20 schools in the spring before their senior year, so they have a junior highlight tape, and I watch every single upcoming senior in that program's junior tape, and we give them a ranking based off our system, and we put them on our list if they meet the ranking criteria to be on the list. And so we've actually watched every single kid in the state of Kentucky before their senior year starts. And I think what that does, it eliminates any chance that there's a kid in state that we wouldn't see. And it also makes us not dependent on the kid to reach out. We're actually the one, when we go in schools and walk into a high school, we don't go to the coach and say, "Hey, who do you have in the 2026 class?" We walk in because we've already watched their highlight tapes and their film and say, "Hey, these are the 4 kids that we really like in your program, these kids." Now, they may try to pitch some other kids as well, but when they say those names, we've seen their tape, and we're not going to, just say, no, I don't want to see that kid, we're going to still talk to the player. And, you may find out something that actually makes you interested beyond what you were. And that's how we do it. And so we do the same thing out of state in our area. Like I do Georgia, 7A schools, basically Atlanta and North. So that's about 20, 25 schools for me in that area.
How,
We
how many kids? That's like 50 highlight tapes per school, something like that. How
Yeah,
do
so
you?
so certain schools, you're right. You're going to have 20 or 30 kids to watch in a given school. Certain schools, you may have 10 or 15. So it takes a ton of time over the spring and summer. But what it does is all that time on the front end saves you so much time on the back end because you're not having to, get this DM from a kid or an email from a coach or something, or somebody calls you and says, because everybody's got kids, right, that they want you to recruit and say, hey, I've got this player at, such and such high school in Kentucky. All we do is say, yeah, we know, or we usually just say, yeah, we'll check them out. But I just go to that coach in that area and say, hey, or actually, we organize all this through Google Sheets. And so every coach, we just have a folder for recruiting 2026 this year. I can go to every key coach's sheet right now, and if somebody says, do you know about this kid from this area? I know the coach that recruits that area. I go to his sheet and say, yeah, he's right here. We've got him ranked as, a stud. We love him. Or he's not on the sheet. And, then I'll just go to the coach and say, have you heard of this kid? And he'll maybe say no, which means he's probably watched him and he didn't meet the criteria, or say, oh, yeah, that was a kid at this school, but, he's really not on our board or anything right now. So we do a ton of work up front to try to save a ton of work in the back end. And the big thing for us is we just don't want anybody to fall through the cracks. That I tell our coaches, like, the worst case scenario is some really, really good player and student athlete that meets all, checks all the boxes, ends up at a school we play and we've never heard about them. Especially if it's
Yeah,
one of
no,
those
no.
areas that all the schools in our conference are recruiting, which we're recruiting a lot of the same kids, obviously.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard that.
Yeah.
And that's really smart.
Parents of high school football players, you're probably already investing in private schools, trainers, nutritionists, camps, and travel, doing everything you can to help your son, but he's still not getting the level of exposure he deserves, and all that effort is going to waste. That's why I created the Football Scholarship Playbook, and inside are the exact step-by-step systems, scripts, and templates I used to earn a Division I SEC scholarship at Ole Miss at just 5'7" and 150 pounds, and that I now use to help athletes just like your son, where 89% of the players who follow this playbook earn scholarship offers. And right now, I want to send you a copy completely free. All that I ask is that you just cover shipping. So if that sounds interesting, click the link in the bio or go to gonextplay.com/free, grab your copy today, and give your son the proven system to earn the offers he deserves.
So, for you, and I want to talk about the athlete side too,
Yeah.
because there are kids that I'm sure, reach out and do connect and do certain things the right way. But I do want to just that process. What if the school doesn't use Huddle? Or what if, are there schools that don't use Huddle that are like, or does every school, high school in your area, they all use Huddle and you don't have issues finding highlight tapes?
As 5 years as a head coach, we've ran into one school, and it's in the state of Kentucky, that doesn't use Huddle. So,
Okay,
yeah.
that's for Kentucky. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Well,
I've ran into multiple high schools that, I mean, we have kids reach out all the time where
mhm.
they don't use Huddle or they use, but okay.
Yeah.
So one school in the whole state that doesn't use it.
Yeah, and that's not just the state. Like, we're obviously recruiting our out of state areas as well. So
Oh yeah,
in
really?
all those out of state areas, which, for us is pretty much all the bordering states of Kentucky plus Kentucky, we've only seen one school ever that didn't use Huddle.
Guys, if you're listening to this right now, I because a lot of kids too, they don't make their highlight tapes right away. They wait. So if that's the case, like they're missing out on opportunity because they don't have a highlight tape. You guys aren't going to watch them, right?
That's true. So my advice, and when we have recruits, I say, your highlight, that's your resume. Like, for us, we are literally judging you off of when we start looking at a guy, it's the spring before his senior season. So if they don't have a junior highlight, they're not going on the list. Now we try to double back and check the list in their senior year at some point, and maybe then they do have a senior film. And maybe some guys in some really good programs aren't playing a lot as a junior and are as a senior. So we do try to double check our work, but the highlight tape, because what we see a ton is a guy's got 10 games of single game highlights that are all a minute long, but those are really hard to recruit off of because they're not organized. The best plays aren't first, and those aren't as good to watch, obviously. But for us, the most important thing a recruit can have, just the way we recruit, is a highlight tape. And the way you make your highlight tape is a game changer. I've seen phenomenal players who, they don't organize the highlight and it's just kind of random. And so the first two or three plays might be just very average plays. And you're just like, no, this he's an average player. And where we're doing how we do it, I tell our coaches, you're only going to be able to watch maybe 4 to 6 plays, about 2 minutes max, to make your decision and your ranking and all these things. Now, if you get super interested in a kid and maybe there's certain positions where you may spend a little bit more time and do a little bit more background. And so if the best plays aren't first and that highlight's not well made and the right stuff is on there, and when I say right stuff, I mean at certain positions you want to check certain boxes on your highlight in the first few clips, then it is going to hurt your recruiting. And obviously in a NAI D2 world where it's not full ride or walk on, it's like literally you're earning money through a good highlight tape, and that's really important. I trained quarterbacks full time for a year / did recruiting, and one of the things I did was I would make players highlights for them, and you could just tell the difference. Like a player would have a highlight and he's like, I'm really not hearing from anybody, I'm only hearing from these schools. And all you had to do was just kind of reorganize and make the highlight the best version of itself, and all of a sudden the interest would pick way up, because again, you're getting a 4 to 6 play or 2 minute basically job interview through this highlight film. It needs to be your best material.
This is so true for everyone listening right now. One of the things we're big on is your highlight tapes got to be in the right order. It's not just put your best plays first. It's what are your best plays, and put those in the best order that college coaches want to see. They want to see play 1, play 2, play 3. They might not make it, like you said, past play 3 or play 4. I had one D2 coach on, and he's like, yeah, I have a G5 guy on my roster right now, and it's because his highlight tape was trash. Like
Yeah.
all his best plays were way far into the tape, and he's like, now the kid's gonna transfer up, but after his first year. But he's like, that's why he's on my roster. And so that's the power of having your tape in the right order. So
Yeah.
you got to have your tape in the right order.
And I add this too, it's attention to detail. If you, and we see this a lot, like if you are filming or including the 20 seconds before the play that's on the film, and then you do
Right.
a play, and then it goes and you're lining up for 20 more seconds. Well, in a minute, we've only seen 2 of your plays, where a guy that takes the time to clip his, film, now maybe I'm getting 5 plays in a minute. Well, he's got a leg up, because in the 2 minutes I'm going to spend watching his film, I get to see 10 or 12 plays of this guy and only 3 or 4 plays of this guy. That makes a huge difference. And I think guys need to lean on, maybe even ask college coaches, like, what do you want to see on my film? I always tell people about quarterbacks, because that's my passion, what I coach. I said, if all you see is fades and posts, that's not a good sign. Every quarterback in the country can throw a fade and post. But if you see timing routes and great pocket movement, anticipation, different touches, like that's going to get me excited. And so, and a lot of times the players and the parents don't necessarily know those things. They get really excited about just, oh, I threw the ball 50 yards in the air and my receiver jumped over 3 guys and caught it. Well, as a quarterback's guy, I say, well, he just threw the ball into triple coverage, right? So
Right. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
the detail in the highlight and taking the time to make it the best version of itself, which really doesn't take that much time with as good as Huddle is and how you can clip it and everything now. It is a difference maker. It will literally earn you not only a scholarship, but at our level, it will earn you more money within your scholarship.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, man. I think just highlight tapes in general is such an important thing to have set up
Hmm.
correctly, and then people just like kind of, half-ass it essentially. And then they're like, I don't have any offers. And it's like, well, that's what you're sending to coaches, and you got, like you said, 15, 20 seconds, or you're not circling yourself on the play, or your plays aren't in the right order. Like, these are the things that, they're crushing you. And you could have 3 offers, but now you have none because, coaches can't even see if you're good or not. They can't even tell. So
Yep.
I'm glad that came up. Now, I do want to talk about just the recruiting process in general, right? Because not everyone does what you guys do, right?
Yep.
Most don't. I've never actually heard one coach ever do that, and that's pretty intense, right?
Mhm.
But like you said, there's guys that maybe when you get to their page, their highlight tape isn't set up yet, or or whatever, right? And so there are players out there, and one of the things that we're big on and we teach them is you want to find the coach that's responsible for recruiting your area,
Yep.
like you mentioned, right? Every coach is an area. Why? Because that's the coach that's going to start the recruiting process with you. And so we teach that. Now they do outreach, they find out who's responsible, and then from there they're looking to there you go. They're looking to get that player. They're looking now when they know the area coach, they're letting them know they know they're their area coach, and they're asking, hey, watch my video, or they don't say it like that, right?
Yeah.
But the goal there is to then just have them evaluate their highlight video, spend a minute or two, and see if there's any interest, right? So for you, what if there are players, though, that maybe they didn't have the highlight video set up in time or whatever, they fell through the cracks, but they did the work to find out who is the area coach, and then they reach out to that area coach and say, hey, I'm XYZ, I'm here, I'm reaching out to your school specifically because I like this major and I really like your program and what you're doing. I feel like I could, play at the NAIA level. How do your coaches handle that?
Yeah, so that's you've hit the nail on the head with the advice I would give is find out one who's recruiting your area. I would send it to 3 people. One, the person that's recruiting your area. 2, I would send it to the position coach because if somebody sent me a quarterback as the quarterback's coach, even if it wasn't in my area, I would be intrigued. I would watch the film, and if it was a really good quarterback, I would take that to the guy recruiting the area and say, "Did you get this same email message? Do you know about this kid?" And hopefully he says yes, but if not, I would say, "Okay, he needs to be on our radar, on your list, whatever it is." And then 3, I would send it to whoever is listed as the recruiting coordinator. So all 3 of those guys combined, you've got a pretty good chance that somebody's gonna do the time to look at that, and that would be great advice. And so, obviously, the big thing in recruiting is just be proactive. Again, uh, you're gonna send hundreds or dozens or whatever it is, DMs, emails. Back in the day when I was in high school, I was mailing out letters with a DVD. In the huddle wasn't around yet, and it was trying to get it uploaded on YouTube by my senior year. But just be proactive because
Yeah.
a coach may not take the time to look at it, or they may have a certain recruiting strategy, and even like ours is unique where it does kind of eliminate having to take the time to read all of those messages and things. Not that we don't in a sense, but they will never know if you don't. And so obviously that's just a huge thing in recruiting. And at the end of the day, I always tell when we have recruits here for our home games and we do our off season bigger visits on Saturdays throughout the winter, which we're kind of hoping that we don't do those for several weeks and we're still playing through the playoffs. But we tell the guys, especially like the guys that are going into their senior year when we have our summer camps, I tell the guys, do you know the best way to get recruited? Or get recruited at a higher level, or get more scholarships. And I always like, what is it? What is this big secret that you know? And it is play better football. Like just become a better football player. And it all goes back to, like you said, the film. The film never lies. There's never been a great football player that looks bad on film. Now, again, the highlight's important. Can you look like a good football player and you're actually a really good football player? It's just the highlight's not great. But at the end of the day, do the work up front to create great film, to create a great highlight. And then, like you said, take the time to look at the detail. Don't just mass email it out to, every single person on the staff. Find out, like you said, who's recruiting the area, who's the recruiting coordinator, and I would just add the position coach as well. And that's probably maybe even more specific to our level where, we are really intrigued by guys at our position. I love quarterbacks. I love coaching quarterbacks. I love
For
quarterback
sure.
play. And I'm just, very tempted, even if it wasn't in my area or whatever, like, oh, here's a quarterback. Well, let's just see. Like, I just like watching quarterbacks play football. So let's see, what this guy's got. And that's great advice. Like, it's well, I'm not getting recruited. And it's like, well, what are you doing? Right. Well, I've emailed 10,000 coaches. Well, are you specifically targeting, certain coaches? Do you live in Seattle and you're sending all your stuff to every school in Florida? Not that, sometimes that doesn't happen, but, like for us, we really don't recruit very much at all outside of that, 4 to 5 hour radius around our campus. And so, again, if I'm in that area, here's the schools, the NAI schools, the D2 schools, D3 schools, whatever it is, that are within 2 or 3 hours of where I'm at right now. Let me target those schools first. And, there's all kinds of strategies, but you're exactly right. Like taking the time to figure out who is actually recruiting my high school, my position, doing a little bit of extra work can go a long way.
Yeah, and they'll be like, "Oh, I sent 10,000 emails," and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, use this like mass email tool
Yeah.
that's like generic." And the coach opened it and was like, "I'm not reading this," right? That's
Right.
why we said in there you got to be very specific and customize it for that coach, right? If you want to get responses, and then like you said, proactive. You can't just send one email or
Yeah.
one DM. You don't want to annoy the coach, but send to the coach an email, wait a week, and follow up with that
Yes.
same email
Yes.
so they see you've done it twice. Wait a week. Don't do it every day. Wait some time and reach back out. But I think I want to preface it with this, Jake or Coach Russell. We'll use Coach Russell, but I think this is important. One of the things that we tell all the players is get your film evaluated. One, to make sure it's in the right order, but two, to know what level you have the best chance of playing at right now, right? If find out, are you an NAI level player? Are you a D2? Are you an FCS? Are you a group of six? Are you a power four? Are you a D3? Like, what are you currently playing at? And then maybe that person that evaluates you will tell you what you need to do to get to the next level. But you should be reaching out to those schools that match your level of play. And I get it. Like I went to an FCS. I walked on. I went to in the SEC, and I wanted to play a big time D1. Everyone wants to do it. I get it, but you don't have to start there anymore. You don't have to do that route, right? Even if that's what you want. And I'm sure you'll say it, and you played in it, man. D2 football, NAI. I mean, it's legit. It's really good. It's very competitive, and these players are all the best players on their high school teams. Like these guys are really good players. And so I just want to preface that in saying, find out, what level you have the best chance to earn a scholarship in. That's one of the things, we do with play. If they reach out, we're like, dude, get an evaluation. Yeah, yes, we do evaluations, but do it with us, do it with someone else. I don't care.
Yeah.
Get it from a college coach. Like, get evaluated so you're not spending all your time reaching out to FCS schools and you're at the NAIA level, or reaching out to Power 4 levels and you're at a D2 level. You're just going to get no responses, and coaches you could do 5 follow-ups and they're not going to respond. They're just like, it doesn't make sense. What say you?
100%. I would say cast a wide net, right? I mean, we hear from guys all the time. I always say you get your evaluation through the recruiting process. If you are a SEC caliber football player, you are going to get SEC offers. There's no guy out there that ends up at an NAI school that out of high school, based off his senior year film and production and all those things, should have been signed in Alabama's recruiting class. Now, you see these awesome stories. I've been very lucky to be a part of these stories with some of my players. Coached a player at KCU my very first year that played 2 years at KCU or 3 years at KCU, transferred to Cincinnati, started 2 years there, was there 3 years, and was with the Browns in training camp, right? Like I said, we had three guys sign Division I scholarships after last season, all three off our defense. And like I said, two of those playing a lot, one for a FBS school, Jacksonville State, one for FCS with Gardner Webb. There was a cornerback here at Campbellsville the year before I got here that's starting and playing a lot at Mississippi State right now. And he actually went from Campbellsville to Memphis to Mississippi State. So if you believe you're an SEC player and your opportunities are at NAI, go to NAI, prove it. And now more than ever, with the ease of transferring, kind of the culture of college football, where I think the Division I teams are looking in more places than they ever have, where social media and being able to get your resume out there as a player is easier than ever. Those opportunities will come. Worst case scenario, and this is a great worst case, right? You go to a great NAI school, get a football scholarship on top of probably other aid, and there's a lot of great NAI football programs around, just like obviously very biasedly I say Campbellsville, and you can have a great football career there. Our guys are in the playoffs. We're having a ton of fun doing this year. We've had a couple great years back to back, and they're going to walk out of here with a bachelor's degree, which is a huge deal for them. So casting a wide net, and if you start off and get NAI and D2 offers, and then your senior year, you're just the man and you explode and you've gotten a lot better. And, sometime in your senior year, or maybe you're one of those very unique guys that a team's looking for this last minute guy on the second signing day, you get a FCS or even Division I offer, that's a pretty good deal. And no NAI coach would be interested in a guy or even have a guy commit and then in February says, hey coach, this Division I school in my state offered me a full ride last minute. And so I say, well, you should come to Campbellsville over, Florida. Come on. We're going to say, man, congratulations. What an awesome thing. And, one thing I was going to say this about when you are messaging and emailing coaches, keep it short and sweet. What we see a lot is these super long either profiles of players, and there's I don't think recruiting services are all bad, but to be honest with you, when we see them, it's kind of the carbon copy, cookie cutter mold of here's 50 pieces of information, 45 that have nothing to do with really recruiting this kid. Just send me your film. Send me your GPA, maybe send me a little bit of info about you as a student athlete, and that's all I want. And, I guess I would also say, you don't have to send, a 250-word essay of why we should recruit and watch your film. Just keep it short and sweet. Hey, coach, here's who I am. I'd appreciate if you take a look at my film. Here's my contact if you're interested. That would be the dream if that's what every message looked like, and it would give us a lot more time to watch a lot of those films. So, but yes, I 100% agree. I always would tell guys whatever your goals are, if it's to be a Division I guy, if it's to be just college football player, whatever it is, you can accomplish those. But now more than ever, there's a lot of different paths to reaching those things.
Yeah, there's a lot that you said there. That's really good. I think the first thing is the what to email, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're reaching out to coach, like we talked about, find who's responsible for recruiting your area. If you want to add the position, like you said, especially for quarterback, I think that's smart too. And then once you find out, when you're reaching out to them, guys, keep it really simple. Yeah, you want to customize it for that coach. Go to their bio, look at who they are, make sure they feel like, hey, this email is being sent to me. And then we're talking 3 sentences max about who you are, why you feel like you could potentially be a fit there, and a link to your video with your contact. That's it, right? You don't want to go overboard with it because, like you said, I know a lot of people with those softwares, they send those huge, it's like you're trying to get an offer from an email.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like you're not going to get an offer from an email, man. The goal of the email is to get them to watch your video and want to pick up the phone and have a conversation with you. That's it.
Yeah,
Outside of that,
and you don't have to explain Coach, I'm an extremely hard worker and a great leader. Every DM that we get, the kid is a great, really hard worker and a great leader. We will find that out through the recruiting process. And, and I do get guys are trying to promote themselves. I think just learning how to do it the right way initially can go a long way.
Yeah, I like that. Simple. Keep it simple. And again, every coach that's why I love interviewing coaches, because some coaches like it a different way. Some
Yeah.
like it another. And that's why when I wrote this book behind me of trying to put this all together, the playbook, it was kind of like a combination of what coaches are
Yeah.
looking for, making it simple and trying to be able to get as many coaches as possible to respond back to you or to be interested. And I think, like I said, we're making sure that you're reaching out to coaches that match your level of play, right? And is really the first and critical portion of that. And then the second thing you said there, I think is really important is you're not going to, this is where college football gets tricky. You're not going to be an SEC level player today because just like you guys have recruiting services that you know of, and one of them sounds like the NCAA and all that stuff. You might have heard of it. They're out there. Like college coaches also have recruiting services, especially at the FBS level and the Power Four level. And these companies know every high schooler, right? Like they know who they are. They know the Power Four level players. Most of them are ranked. You're not going to go pay a service to get ranked. It doesn't exist. They know you. They find you. They rank you. Like that's how those. So when it comes to just being a great player and being found, like, yeah, if you're at the Power Four level, that's going to happen, right? It's very, 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 very rare that it's not. But when it comes to the FCS and the D2 and the NAI, there are no ranking services, right? The recruiting services become very rare, and it really is up to you to be a promoter, to market yourself, to get in front of coaches. Because not everyone does what you do. I think what you do is really smart, man. Really smart. But not everybody, nobody that I've ever talked to does that. So it's really smart. So again, I just want to make that a point, right? Because some kids are like, oh, I'm just going to go work really hard and I'll just be a great football player and I won't post on social and I won't reach out. And I'm like, yeah, but dude, that only really works if you're like a Power Four level player and maybe a group of 6. You know what I mean? Like once you get outside of that, coaches aren't going to know who you are. You have to do it, right?
100%. Yeah. And like I said, and as you've mentioned, obviously everybody's got a different recruiting strategy. And so, what are the things that are going to, and here's kind of one question when we have our visit days is what is making you stand out over the other 200 kids that play your position in our area, right? So again, obviously, the film is a huge part of that. But now I have my film and we've narrowed this down to 20 guys in our area that play X position that we feel like can fit what we want to do and build here, right? Okay, within those 20, who now meets the requirements academically, right? Who's being responsive? And so, and that's one thing that's really tough as a small school coach is, we've got guys in the class of 2026 right now that we love that are in our areas and close here, in state or even out of state, that their senior seasons have ended or are about to end and we can't get a response from because I think they still have those dreams and desires that a Division I coach is going to come. And again, maybe it's rare, but it does happen that late. But it's like if you're at the end of your senior year and you don't have any Division I concrete offers, it's definitely a good time to start to cast the wider net, as I said earlier, whatever phrase you want to throw in there. But yeah, and so I always tell guys, separate yourself by just having the information readily available. Okay, we've watched your film, or you've sent a coach your film, and he says, "Hey, I like this film. I need these things from you. Probably unofficial transcript, or accurate academic information. Could be GPA and test score. Obviously wherever you're at around the country, SAT, ACT. It could be dependent on a lot of schools went away from requiring a test score kind of through the COVID phase." But some still do, right? So you need to know who you're dealing with as a player. What is Campbellsville University's base requirements to be admitted, right? We don't require a test score. If you're in-state, the test score helps some of the in-state money you could possibly receive. So if it takes me, 3 or 4 or 5 times messaging a recruit that we really like, hey, I'm still waiting on that transcript. Have you had the chance to send it? And after the 3rd or 4th time, and he's saying, yeah, I still got to get with my counselor. Well, I told my coach, he said he was going to do it, whatever it is. That's a huge red flag for us because it says, this guy very simple task is really taking a long time and struggling to just get the information that is directly going to affect, his scholarship and his opportunity. Where one of those other guys we've narrowed it down to, let's say there's 5 guys at that position, one of those other guys had the unofficial, we said, hey, we need the unofficial transcript, and he's emailed it in 2 minutes. He said, here's my FAFSA info, here's my unofficial transcript. Is there anything else you need, coach? Here's my coach's contact in case you would like to talk with him. That is what is impressive to us, because again, there's plenty of good football players out there, and it's really hard through the recruiting process as a coach, I think, at our level, where you're recruiting these guys and say, well, when he actually comes into your program, what type of kid is he going to be? Because all the young men and student athletes, the high school seniors, they all do a great job on their visits of presenting themselves as good young men. And so you can kind of get a little feel of their responsibility, character, those things through those type of conversations, and they don't really even realize sometimes how you're getting feedback through those things. But again, if we're trying to get info so that we can put a scholarship on paper or get you admitted into school, and after 6 weeks or 2 months we're still waiting on that stuff, just us personally, like, we're just going to go to the next guy that's also really good at football who can get that information, because we feel like he will be able to handle all the different responsibilities of being a college student athlete probably better than the other guy.
Makes a lot of sense.
If you're already spending thousands on personal trainers, nutritionists, private schools to help your son live his dream of playing college football, but he's not getting the exposure he deserves, and you don't want to let him settle for average, then you're going to absolutely want to be at this live training that I'm doing, where I'm going to share with you exactly what you can do to help your son to start getting 5 responses from college coaches every single day, from how to properly set up his social media profiles, to when and how to post, to actually send the right messages to the right coaches so that they actually respond, and how do you respond when they do respond. So you don't have to spend thousands of hours trying to figure it out, because you probably don't have the time, and so that you have everything you need to help your son be successful. So you're absolutely going to want to leave there. I'll leave a link below where you can register. Look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate you being on here. I know we're getting to the time here, but I am curious, for parents and players out there that are interested in Campbellsville, what would you like to share just kind of about the program, and what would you share with parents, and what do you share with parents and families when they come on a visit, and about the program and kind of where it's going, and if they're interested?
Yeah, well, the great thing about Campbellsville, as I kind of started off with, is we're very blessed with resources and facilities and all those things. But I tell parents and players that you will never, 10 years after you graduate, think, you know what, our locker room was so nice, or the turf was just, really nice every day that we got to practice on it, or, that 45-pound bar that we moved on the bench press was just top of the line. What you're going to remember is the student athlete experience that can be provided for you. And while I love being at Campbellsville, I loved being here when I transferred here from the University of Kentucky as a player and spent 2 years here. And now in my 3rd year as a coach, and obviously living here and being on campus every single day, is that I feel like our guys get a great overall student athlete experience. We're very passionate about the football side of things, but one reason our retention and our recruiting has been so good is our guys have a good experience outside of the few hours a day they spend doing football, right? Campbellsville, our football program itself, we try to bring a guy in and say, what are your, individual goals on the football field, but also in your life and off the football field. And usually when they're 18-year-old freshmen, it's all football, and that's all they care about. And then as a guy progresses through our program, we're obviously forming relationships. We're trying to see, because every kid in our program is different. They need to be coached different, not held to a different standard or anything, or treated different, but they need to be coached different, poured into different. Some of our guys are in the office every day and they need a lot of encouragement and a hug, and some of the guys are just, tell me what to do and it'll be done. And so I think our staff and our program does a great job of taking all those different guys from all different backgrounds, areas of their life, places, and really making it feel like a family. And I think we have a lot of great things that could back that up. Like I said, our retention rate, we've had very few guys leave our program in 3 years here to go play football somewhere else at our level. Pretty much none. Like I said, the few guys that have left have ended up kind of at the higher level. There we go, lights out. Um,
There you
yeah, it's funny. I did a podcast for an NAI guy over the summer, and it was like the same deal. I was like, I'm so sorry, but um, obviously Campbellsville is a faith-based university, and so that's very important to me. It's one of the reasons I really want to be the head coach here. We do things within our program that back that up. We've had 20 guys get baptized in our program in 2.5 years since our staff has been here. We have a great staff of men that just pour into our guys daily. And I would say that, our guys are close. Like, this is a family thing. We do push our guys extremely hard. Like, we hold a legit standard that, and it's everything from if you show up a minute late to weights, you're going to be disciplined for it. And the reason we discipline you is because we're trying to help you learn and grow. Because if you show up late to your job in 5 years too many times, you're not going to have a job. Or if you miss, a day of work and don't tell anybody, you're probably being let go immediately. So if you just don't show up to a meeting and don't tell anybody, we've got to try to teach you those things. So Campbellsville is a great place. There's so many awesome small schools around the country. I love NAI. I hope to coach in the NAI a long time. People are asking me a lot, like, are you going to try to move up? What about Division I? All those things. I got a great experience as a player to see the FCS for a year, the SEC for 3 years, and then NAI for 2 years. And even now as a coach, like NAI right now, because we deal with very little NIL stuff, I think is the most pure form of sports that exists at the college level. And I just love it. I think there's a little uniqueness to it in a lot of ways. But yeah, Campbellsville itself, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I could go on about that for days. But there's a lot of great small colleges and universities around there. And I wish people would kind of open the door more to that, educate themselves more on that. When people come to our games and watch our conference games that we play, they're blown away. They're like, I didn't realize NAI football was, like as you mentioned earlier, this good. But it
You
is.
guys have a legit stadium too. It's really nice.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the facilities are
Our game days
really
here
good.
are they're great. Like, it feels like college football here. Like, you got band cheer and everything's going off, some fireworks
The whole
sometimes.
9 yards.
Yeah, it's the whole nine
Yeah.
yards. And then obviously when your team's better, people are more excited and more supportive. And we play in the best conference in NAI, and so we have a ton of that big top 10 game here against our rival that's 20 minutes down the road, and it went down to the wire, and we were able to win this year for the first time in a while against them. So it's awesome football. And like I said, I think it's still very pure form of football, where we're not bringing in guys after the season and saying, "Hey, I was paying you $500,000 and you didn't have a very good year. Like, you need to find somewhere else to go." Or bringing a guy in and saying, "Hey, we only have so many scholarship offers to give out, and you're getting one, and you're not doing a very good job on the field, even if you're a good kid and you're making good grades. So you're cut, and I'm giving that scholarship to this transfer guy." Like, that we just
Yeah.
hear these stories all the time in Division I right now with the NIL and with scholarships and all this stuff, and it's a cutthroat world. I see both sides of it. I mean, when there's millions and millions and millions of dollars on the line, these are big businesses. And while, we're still at a university that has to make money and there's a business side to what we do, the football side is very pure.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's good. And I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there that are uh that can appreciate that, to say, especially with everything going on. Like, obviously I'm a huge Ole Miss fan, and this whole Lane Kiffin saga is
Oh
a
my gosh, yeah.
circus. It's a frick. Like, what are your real quick before we go, what are your thoughts on the whole Lane Kiffin circus?
Well, he deserves it. I mean, he's done a phenomenal job. He's obviously a very gifted football coach. There's really one agent that's running college football that's getting everybody extremely rich and leveraging everything, right? I was a huge Tim Tebow guy back in the day, and he was also Tim Tebow's agent, so that's how I first learned who he was. And more power to him, right? Um, I don't know. I would like to see more coaches.
Timing.
I would
It's
like
all
to
the
see more
timing of everything.
coaches kind of maybe do what, and again, Kirk Cignetti could leave Indiana tomorrow, but I love seeing a coach that says, "Hey, I got an opportunity at this place. It's been awesome. We've had a lot of success here. Let me anchor down here and spend a lot of time here." But I would probably never, if a coach really felt like this other place can help me accomplish you know, my career goals or whatever their goals are, like go for it. Because um, and that was probably always one thing with the players having to sit out when they transferred or things like that. And even in our conference, we actually still have if you transfer within conference, you can't play the next year. And I've always said, I don't like that because a coach could go to another school in our conference and he's coaching the first game next year, right? So
Yeah, this is true.
it's a free for all. I'm very glad I'm not coaching Division I football right now. It would just be overwhelming for me, I think, to be honest.
It is. It's wild, man. So we'll see. But hey, Coach Russell, it's been absolutely awesome having you on, man. Super young coach, super successful already. Got a great career ahead of you, and as you're a great player. So we appreciate having you on. I know there's a lot of families out here that really enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll have you on again next year.
Hey, that'd be awesome, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's one of the reasons I agreed to do it. I just think there's so much need for just education and advancement and helping, high school guys in the recruiting process. And I always tell the families this is the first big life-changing decision that these young men make because where you go to college impacts your life tremendously. And the parents don't get to go with them or shouldn't at least. And these are huge decisions, and I think there's so much pressure a lot of times in the recruiting process. Without the education, it can be a scary thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll appreciate having you, and
Yeah.
we'll have you on again soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Scholarship Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. And for more free resources, or if you're interested in working with us, visit gonextplay.com. Until next time.